Right, for this part of the project, we're going to make a simple little mouse. I'm going to take some of this ash coloured carded wool batting. I have around about 1 gram here. We don't need much, we're just going to make a little mouse and pop it on our felting pad. So I have here the wool and I'm just going to flatten it down with my hands and fingers. And then what I'm going to do is fold it over in half. So I'm going to put my finger in the middle there and just fold that over. So now I have a nice fold going on in the middle of the wool there. And then all I'm going to do from that point is begin to roll it up into this shape, which is kind of like a little cone shape. So holding that on the felting mat, I'm then going to begin pushing the felting needle through the wool. Now this is the green needle, which is the large size, a size 32. And I'm going to be very careful not to stab my finger or my thumb while I'm doing this. A few stabs in and that will begin to hold. So all I'm going to do is take it off my mat and then turn it and begin to felt that up and down. And I'm going to do this all over until each side has been felted, and I'll speed this part up a little bit. Right, so now I've gone all the way around there. I'm going to start felting this larger side here, which had the fold over on it, in this way with the same large needle. So I'm going to be felting in this way. This will be the bottom of the mouse, as well as down this way and also in at an angle, taking this part down so that it's not just a flat bottom, but a round bottom. So wherever the needle goes, this will bring down the size of the piece of felt. It will mat it so it's firmer, and generally just felt it together into that rounded shape as long as you keep felting the needle on all sides of this area. You can do quite big stabs in this way to really bring that in a little bit and firm that bottom of the mouse. And don't forget to go around the edges so that it doesn't have a flat bottom. I'll continue to felt that soon, but on this side here, this will be the nose of the mouse. Now I have rather a lot here, so I'm just going to pull off a little bit of that felt. And I'm going to be felting both in this way and down this way. Felting down this way will make the point of the nose, but felting in this way will bring down the length so it's not such a big long point of the nose. So I'm just bringing that in slightly this way, and we don't want all those wispy bits of wool sticking out. Now it's brought it in, we don't want a flat mouse nose, so I'm going to then again go down this way. I'm going to mix up those two felting needle positions to get it into a little snout of the nose. So I'm going both this way and down this way, and I'm turning as I go. And I'll just speed this part up. Right, so now I've finished this part of the mouse. I'm just going to go over the bottom part of the mouse, just making sure that's nice and firm and not too squishy on this end. So we're going to end up with a little cone shape that we'll make into our mouse. So now we have the general little cone shape for the mouse. I'm just going to go over the texture of the felt at the top on the surface with my medium needle. This is the pink one, it's a size 36. And all I'm going to do is some gentle tapping over the surface. And this will improve the texture and iron out any lumps on the surface of our little mouse. And I'll speed this part up. Right, so now we've finished just improving the texture of our little mouse. I'm just going to give it a little rub between my hands. This is going to take out any of the tiny little needle marks that you might see on the surface and give it an extra little bit of felting over that area. And if you have any bits that are too sticky out, you can always go over with a pair of sharp scissors to improve the texture on the surface. And next we're going to make the ears for our little mouse. So popping him aside there, I'm going to take 2 small pinches of the same coloured wool. I'm going to make sure they're around about the same size. Should be enough that it's not too thin to see through the middle there, but not too thick either. We don't want big pinches here. I've got quite a thin pinch, but I can't see through the middle there. So something like this, and it should be enough that when you put your finger on top of it, you can still see a halo of the wool around your finger. And that's how we're going to begin making the ear. So popping this bit aside, I'm going to put my finger down on this piece of wool. Then I'm just going to start tucking in the edges underneath my finger so that my finger is holding down that same shape, but it's got a fold all the way around rather than fluffy fibres. And it's still slightly bigger than my finger there, so that I can go in around my finger with my large or my medium needle, the green or the pink one, to begin felting that down into the mat. Now be very careful of your finger here. Once you've felted it a few times, you can then take your finger away and begin really felting that down, using my large needle here now, into the mat to flatten out that piece of felt. Now I don't want to do it too much before taking it off again, because the fibres of the wool will stick to the fibres of your felting mat. So I'm just going to go over that once more again. And I'm just going to go around the edges there with my needle. I'm kind of guiding in with my large needle the very edges of the wool in towards the middle to make sure any fluffy bits are then felted in. I don't want to bend the needle as I'm doing this, but just carefully folding them in and then felting them down. I'll take it off one more time and felting down once more. Now we should have a nice flat piece of felt in that nice curve shape at the top. I'm just going to go over it a few times. You can even give it a little rub this way just to further felt those fibres. Just making sure that if it's too thin, you can always take an extra piece of wool and just felt that on top, making sure it's not falling apart. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit with my felting pen, which is holding 3 needles. You can find these pens in most online craft stores, and this will speed up your process by 3 times. Well worth it. So taking that off, I'm now just going to trim down a little bit because this is quite large. So I'm going to take off the very edges there, and if that's nicely felted, it shouldn't fall apart. And then these fluffy bits at the end, I'm just going to chop them down into a straight line. And that's one ear done. Now I'm going to do exactly the same with this piece of wool here to make the second ear, and I'll speed this part up. Right, so now I have that other ear felted. I just want to make sure they're the same size. So I'm going to pop this one on top here and just make sure they're both trimmed to the same position at the bottom there. Don't want it to be too long. And this ear here is slightly larger than the one I've just made. So using the smaller one as a template, I'm just going to cut round that larger one. You might need to refelt it again at the edges, just to make sure none of those bits of wool are falling apart. And then lastly, we're just going to put a little bit of pink wool in the middle. So I've got this lovely kind of peachy pink here. I'm going to take a very small amount and just pop it in the middle there. And then using my very smallest needle, which is the red one, this is a size 38, I'm just going to gently tap that pink wool to connect the fibres of the pink into the mouse coloured ears. You don't want to stab that all the way through because then the pink fibres will come through the other side into the back of the ears. So we're just gently tapping here. Any loose fibres coming off, we can just trim that down this way. We can also go in this way just to neaten up that whole ear a little bit. And that's one done. We'll do exactly the same with this one. Right, so now that's on, I'm just going to trim down any excess pieces of fluff that we don't need. Neaten that up a little bit. And I'm just going to go around the outside of the pink there with my medium or my large needle, just redefining that area. It also makes a little bit of a lip on the outside of the ear. So now we have two ears ready to be attached to the mouse. Now there's two ways we can attach this. The easiest way would be to either just pop it on like this and then felt that through. And that would be one ear attached on, and we do the same with the other ear. We could also have them coming down this way, which is also an easy option, just by felting through the end there and into the mouse this way. I'm not going to fully attach it because I'm going to show you the third way, which is the trickiest way, but if you like, you can give this a shot. I'm going to take the bottom of the ear here, so the flat bit, the round bits at the top and the flat bits at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is pinch those two ends into the middle. I'm going to pop it on its side to do this because it's easier for me. So holding down with my finger, I'm going to take those two corners and pinch them together. So it's puckering the ear and it looks like this. We need to attach these two sides together, so I'm just going to pop it on its side there on the mat, and either the large or the medium needle here, I'm just going to start felting through just the bottom as I'm holding it down. I'll take it off the mat and do the other side as well. So just that bottom piece together, maybe about 1 centimetre up from the bottom so that it's really connected. Take it off the mat. And that should be it, stuck together in that lovely little puckered ear shape. Going to do exactly the same with this one. And that's the two ears ready to be attached on in that shape. Just making sure they're a similar size. Now to attach on, I'm going to take this part here. So it's going to be facing left, the pink part. Here I have the bottom of the mouse and the nose of the mouse. And I'm going to have this pink part of the ear facing outward. So it's going to be attached on the top of the head here with the ear facing outward like that. So holding it on, I'm going to carefully go through with my medium needle through that bottom part that we just felted, the two bits together, and I'm felting all the way over that and into the mouse. I'm not doing big stabs because I don't want to distort the shape too much of the mouse, but enough for it to hold through. And that's it now held on nicely. You can also hold it further by going inside the ear here with your large or your medium needle. And that will also help the shape of the ear to look like it's going inward. So I'm going to do exactly the same with this one, having that facing outward to the right of that ear, holding it in place. Make sure it's the same or a similar length from the nose back so that the two ears are coming in up to the same position before you commit to stabbing it in. And just check that's right. And stabbing through the bottom, through the ear, into the mouse body to connect that down. And then also through the inside of the ear into the body as well. Now, if you have any parts there where you have any pink coming through, all you do is take a small patch of that first colour we worked with, the mouse colour, and you can just patch over any areas like that. And I'm just going to tap through with my medium needle very gently to quickly attach that on, and that will cover up any areas you need to cover up if you need to. And that's that part done. So then we're going to move on to the eyes. Here I have a pair of glass felting eyes. They're black glass beads and they come on stems, which you then put the stem into the felted sculpture to hold on. And if you have any glue, you can always dab a little bit of glue on the stem there, so that it holds firmly inside the sculpture. So popping them aside, taking your large or your medium needle to make the hole for the stem, I'm just going to pop a hole here inside the side of the mouse, close to the ear, not under it, but a little bit forward from there, right on the side. And we're going to push my needle in and out, back and forth without taking it all the way out a few times, and that will make a hole for the stem. Then you can just pop that in and push it in, and that's one. Make sure to get the second one in a similar position by looking at the front first, and then on the side to get it in that similar position. You can always move it if need be before you use any glue. Pushing that in, and then we have our eyes in. And lastly, we're just going to make a tiny little mouse tail. So again, popping him aside, I'm going to take a small pinch of that same ash colored wool, and I'm going to start spinning it into a little tail. So first I'm going to hold on to the very edges here of the wool, take a good pinch there, make sure that if I pull it gently, it's kind of lengthening the wool a little bit without pulling it apart. Then I'm going to lick my finger and thumb before I start spinning the end of the wool, as this will give it a little bit of grip on the wool. There is a bit there that's almost come apart, so you can either pull that off or see if you can still mat that together by spinning it. Basically just keep going and then begin to twist it. I'm going to pull these fibres apart. Now I'm going to really give that a twist at the end. This will begin to firm up that tail. And now we have a good length of tail there. So what I'm going to do is, now I've twisted that, hold that down on my mat between two fingers, and then with my medium or my large needle, you can then just gently stab along that length to begin to felt the fibres together and mat them so that they stay in that length of spun wool up and down, and that's the beginning of that. Now I don't need it at this length, so I'm going to pull some of this off so we've got a shorter length to work with. Here at the end I'm going to spin again. So once that's spun nicely, I'm going to hold it again between my two fingers and felt along that length. One more big twist all the way down. One of these ends will be the bottom end of the mouse tail. I'm going to pick this end here. So I'm just giving that an extra twist and licking my fingers as I do so to make that the very end of the tail. This part here with the fluffy end, I'm just going to space out those fluffy bits so it gives me a little bit more hold to attach this end to our mouse. So taking him over here, I've got his bum facing up. I'm going to take those fanned out fibres there. I'm going to go in with my medium needle and just tap them down into the bottom of the mouse. I'm going to flip the tail up and just make sure to go and felt the bottom of that length of the tail into the bottom of the mouse so that it's really nicely firmly held on there. If this becomes too tricky for you and you happen to have a piece of string, that can also work as well, but give it a shot. And there we go, guys. A lovely cute little felted mouse. If you want to give him a little bit of a trim with a sharp pair of scissors just to neaten him up further, being careful of his tail as you do so, just to give it a nice finished look. And there we go. Now if you like to add him to your pumpkin, all you have to do is just pop him in the top there, if that's where he wants to sleep, all curled up with his tail. If you want to connect him in firmly, you can just go through the bottom of your mouse into the pumpkin like so, on both sides. I'm just shifting him to the side to see underneath him and going from underneath right through the mouse into the pumpkin, and that's him all settled in for his lovely little pumpkin nap. If you you'd like to try something a little bit more challenging, go on to the next part and I'm going to show you how to make an intermediate level sleeping mouse for this pumpkin project.